Hey friends, Lord of the Rings is coming to Magic the Gathering, and we just got our first previews of the set, including the face commanders for the new pre-constructed decks coming to Commander. So we're going to go over the face commanders and the amazing new commander reprints that are coming with the set as well. But before we begin, two quick reminders. First, if you want to pre-order all these sweet new cards from Lord of the Rings, you can head on over to our sponsor, cardgame.com/mtggoldfish, and ask for a scoop sticker in the order notes for extra value. And number two, if you don't want to miss any of the upcoming preview videos, be sure to like and subscribe to help the channel grow. So the first face commanders that we're going to be talking about are actually partner commanders. This is Frodo, Adventurous Hobbit, and Sam, a Loyal Attendant. So if you have Frodo and Sam as your commanders, you can have both of them in the command zone instead of just having just one commander. So Frodo is an Orzhov commander, white and a black, 1/3 legendary creature halfling scout. Partner with Sam, Vigilance, and whenever Frodo attacks, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, the ring tempts you. Then if Frodo is your ring bearer and the ring has tempted you 2 or more times this game, you draw a card. So what is the ring tempts you? What is a ring bearer? What's all this stuff? These are all new mechanics coming with Lord of the Rings as a set, and it's only going to show up in the set. And it's basically an emblem. So I'm just going to read out the card text and what it actually does. So the ring tempts you. As the ring tempts you, you gain an emblem named the ring if you don't have one. Then your emblem gains its next ability, and you choose a creature you control to become or remain your ring bearer. So basically the ring makes your ring bearer progressively better and better. So at the beginning, your ring bearer is a legendary and can't be blocked by creatures of greater power. Then when you get tempted again, whenever your ring bearer attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. Then whenever your ring bearer becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller sacrifices it at end of combat. And then finally, at the highest tier, whenever your ring bearer deals combat damage to a player, each opponent loses 3 life. So once you get tempted the first time, you get this emblem, the ring, and you get to choose a ring bearer, and it's legendary and can't be blocked by creatures of greater power. Then each time you get tempted again, you can choose a new ring bearer or just keep the same remaining one, and it will start to loot, it will start making blocking even harder, and it will make your opponent start losing life, all of those at the same time. It'll be great. There are no downsides to the ring, unlike the book, which is probably the biggest flavor fail of this entire set, I would say, so far at least. It's all upside, baby. Apparently, casual Magic players did not like playing with the ring when there was any sort of downside to it, like the book would have it be. But anyway, rant aside, the cards are super sweet. So Frodo, Adventurous Hobbit is just your standard ring bearer. It's the person you want to put the ring on. And Sam, a Loyal Attendant, is going to be supporting as a support role for Frodo, which is very, very thematic, very flavorful, very on point in terms of that. So this is a Selesnya creature, 3 mana, 2/4, legendary creature, halfling peasant, partner with Frodo. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a food token. So that's an artifact with pay 2 mana, sacrifice this artifact, gain 3 life, and activate abilities of food you control cost 1 less to activate. So to crack a food token with Sam on the battlefield usually costs 2 mana, but with Sam on the battlefield, it only costs 1. And cracking a food means you gain 3 life, and that's exactly how much life you need to gain with Frodo in order to have that attack trigger be online, which means you get to be tempted by the ring and possibly also draw a card. So obvious synergy here. This is an Abzan deck that's all about food tokens and turning that food tokens into value, more value with Frodo and whatnot. And it doesn't even have to be food tokens necessarily, just a little bit of a life gain. You need to gain at least 3 life per turn before you're attacking with Frodo to get maximum value out of these two commanders. So what do I expect to do with Frodo and Sam? Well, I think I'd go all in on foods mattering. We've had a food commander before with Gyomi, and I absolutely love Gyomi, and a lot of the same ideas with Gyomi would apply here. So I'd be interested in tapping my food tokens as if they were mana rocks of Inspiring Statuary, or whenever I make a food token, also making a treasure and clue token with Academy Manufactor. They're artifact tokens. They come out very plentiful. There's a dozen ways of harnessing the power of artifact synergies, especially in Abzan colors. So that's how I would kind of build a deck. It's kind of like a grindy style mid-range deck, using Frodo to constantly be drawing cards and eking out value. Probably throw some swords on Frodo as well, since he has such good evasion. Basically, it's impossible for creatures higher power than it to block, so that's a nice boon. But also, if you have some ways of giving it evasion as well, that guarantees hitting in each time unopposed. So throwing some swords onto it, some combat triggers is going to be really nice as well. But also focusing on artifacts would be my go-to strategy here. These two are my favorite of all the face commanders so far. Minor spoiler ahead. I really like them. I don't think they're very powerful. I don't think any of the precon commanders, at least the face cards, are like super powerful, but they're very flavorful, and they're really exciting to me, particularly Frodo and Sam. These two are my favorites. And, you know, even though it's going to be like more on the casual end, not high power, I still like them quite a lot. Moving on to the next face commander, this is Sauron, Lord of the Rings. This is an 8-mana Grixis commander, so 5, a blue, a black, and a red, so very, very high mana cost, for a 9/9 legendary creature, Avatar Horror, that says when you cast a spell, amass orcs 5, mill 5 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also has trample, and whenever a commander an opponent controls dies, the ring tempts you. So 8 mana is a lot for a commander. Like, it dies one time and then you have to spend 10 mana to recast it again. And a lot of people are really down on this card, and I don't think this is like a super powerhouse by any means, but I think it's a lot of value up front, and it's worth the 8 mana because this is a cast trigger. So as soon as you cast it, you get to mill 5, put essentially 5 power onto the battlefield. Amass 5 means if you have a orc army already on the battlefield, you put 5 +1/+1 counters onto it. And if you don't have an orc army onto the battlefield, you create a 0/0 orc army token, and then you put 5 +1/+1 counters on it. So when you cast a spell, you're making 5 power on the battlefield with this orc token. You're putting a 9/9 trampler on the battlefield with Sauron, and you also get to reanimate, hopefully, a really big creature from your graveyard. So that's at least 14 power on the battlefield, plus you get to reanimate something else, which probably is going to be the biggest payoff of them all. And then on top of that, you also get to be tempted by the ring every once in a while when your commanders, opposing commanders, start dying. So I think that's a lot of value on a single card. I know it's really expensive, but we have ways of getting around the casting cost and casting Sauron multiple times. So what I expect to do with this is basically go like Grixis, go tall, stompy, haymaker style. Like, obviously, we're going to have a reanimate package. We're going to put really high cost creatures that are super flashy in our graveyard so we can reanimate them with Sauron. But other ways of just getting Sauron on the battlefield very consistently is something like Geode Golem, which whenever it deals combat damage, we can just cast Sauron for free, so it's an 8 mana discount. And big mana spells like Mana Geyser can easily pay the cost for Sauron. We just have to provide a black and a blue, and then boom, we can cast Sauron pretty easily, at least once or twice. So I don't think Sauron's like super high power, and like I said, all these precon commanders, they don't look super powerful, but they're very flavorful, they look sweet, and I think this one's better than people are giving it credit for. I think it's worth the 8 mana. Moving on, we have Eowyn, Shield Maiden. This is a Jeskai Humans Matters commander. It's a 5-drop, 2, a blue, a red, and a white for a 5/4 human knight, first strike. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if another human enters the battlefield under your control this turn, create 2/2/2 red human knight creature tokens with trample and haste. Then if you control 6 or more humans, draw a card. So this is going to be Jeskai Go Wide Human Tribal. You want to fill the board with a lot of humans, pump them up, and if you control 6 or more, you're drawing a card every single combat, which is great. And you're supplying more humans onto the battlefield, which is also great in go wide strategies. And I also really like that it's at the beginning of your combat trigger. So if you are in red, you probably are going to be running a lot of extra combat attacks, and that means more and more Eowyn triggers. So like anything that says like take an extra combat is going to be super good with Eowyn. And I absolutely love the artwork too. This is when Eowyn takes out the Nazgul, dethrones, I think it was like the Witch King of Agmar, I forget its name, and then takes him out as well too. So it's a really cool heroic moment as well that I like. All right, but what cards do I think are going to work really well with Eowyn? I think anything that supports a go wide human tribal strategy is going to be really good. So like I said, anything that can put a lot of humans on the battlefield, like increasing devotion, is going to be really good. Anything that takes advantage of putting a lot of humans on the battlefield, like Kindred Discovery and Shared Animosity, is going to be great. And then best of all is going to be extra combat spells, because those are going to be ways to close out the game very, very quickly. And also it's going to be making more tokens of Eowyn and drawing you more cards of her too. So she's just going to be really good, really efficient. I think this is the strongest face commander of all the precons. If I had to put my money on one of them being the strongest, I think it's going to be Eowyn. This is just so much value on a single card. It's 5 mana, so it's like on the higher end for a commander, but it's not too high, and it puts a lot of damage onto the battlefield and draws you cards at the same time. So I think this card's great. The final face commander is Galadriel, Elven Queen. This is Simic Elves Manners and also like voting matters. And this is very unique because you don't really get to see elves mattering much in Simic. That's very much like a green thing and a Selesnya thing, and most importantly, a Golgari thing. That's probably where they're best at. But Simic Elves, that's kind of new. So this is a 4 mana, 4/5 Simic legendary creature elf noble with Will of the Council. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if another elf entered the battlefield under your control this turn, starting with you, each player votes for Dominion or Guidance. If Dominion gets more votes, the ring tempts you, then you put a +1/+1 counter on your ring bearer. If Guidance gets more votes or the vote is tied, you draw a card. So every single turn, you're either drawing a card or you're getting tempted by the ring and you're buffing up your ring bearer. And that only happens if you get an elf on the battlefield. I consider this pretty weak. There's not much of a ceiling to this. It's very hard to take extra combats in Simic. So it's limited on what you can be doing here. But I guess that's fine because Simic is probably the strongest color pairing in casual Commander. It's easily the most busted when I think about like what is the most busted color pair, what has the most busted value engine commanders. It's always Simic. So I'm kind of excited to see a non-busted Simic commander. I think that is the silver lining of this commander, at least in my first impressions of it. What do I expect to do with this? Well, I'd probably go like Elf Ball, but like taking advantage of the fact that we're in blue, because that's not something we get to see very often. So I'd be running an Elf Ball deck that happens to run as many blue elves as I could find. So like Edric, Spymaster of Trest, one of my favorite cards of all time. Coiling Oracle, always fun. Tomb of Horrors Adventure is a blue elf that you don't really get to see played that often, at least for being an elf. And that's exciting to me. This is the one that's the least interesting to me personally. But I don't know. It is a cool space, I guess. Let me know what you want to do with this card in the comment section below. But we'll move on to something I am legitimately super, super stoked for, and that's the reprints. And my friends, the reprints are bangers. Like, look at this. So we have Ancient Tomb being reprinted as Balin's Tomb. We have Shadow Spear being reprinted as Morgul Knife. We have Deserted Temple being reprinted as Weathertop. This is where Frodo was stabbed with the Morgul knife. And then we have a Bajugabog reprint with Barrow Downs. And Bajugabog, you know, it's not a very expensive card, but it is a commander staple and it has cool new art. And Barrow Downs is actually something that hasn't been showcased in the movies. It was only in the book and it was cut content from the movies. I think this is where Tom Bombadil saved the party and they had a little Tom Bombadil moment. I don't remember the details that well, but it's cool. I love the art. I love the art on all of these. But like Deserted Temple, Shadow Spear, Ancient Tomb in particular. Ancient Tomb was like a $60 card. So these reprints are really gas. But the reprints haven't ended here. We have, I think, 6 more cards. So the other ones, woof. Homeward Path with Green Dragon Inn. Oh my goodness. I think this is the first time we've ever seen Homeward Path reprinted, if I recall correctly. This card is fantastic in Commander. We also have Minamu School at Water's Edge as Dol Amroth. I don't know what Dol Amroth even is, but I'm really excited they got reprinted. Rings of Brighthearth gets reprinted as 3 rings for the Elven Kings. Rings of Brighthearth, not super expensive anymore, I don't think, because I think it was reprinted in Commander Legends, but flavorfully, it's really, really cool. And here's another big reprint, Boseiju Who Shelters All as Isengard Saruman's Fortress. So we have some really powerful lands being reprinted here. We also have Rings of Brighthearth, which is a flavor win that just looks really, really cool. So I think these are some high value reprints that is going to be really exciting for just Lord of the Rings fans and also for people who want these cards but cheaper. So A+ reprints here, and I think we have 2 more. No, we have 3 more. Cloudstone Curio, this is a combo staple being reprinted as Elisar the Elfstone. So that's really awesome and also a very expensive card. The Ozolith, it's a card that just keeps going up in price because +1/+1 counters is always going to be very popular and it always continues to get more support. It's Argonath, Pillars of the Kings. I think one of them is Isildur and the other one, I don't know who it is. And then finally we have Cavern of Souls, which is a very expensive land, as Paths of the Dead. So I think if you don't care about Lord of the Rings at all whatsoever, I think you should still keep in mind what cards are going to be reprinted here, because I think they will be affected in terms of the price. Like, these cards will go down in value, which is going to be great. So if you're looking to pick up these cards, either these new versions or the older versions, you might have a good chance to pick them up in like a month from now, maybe 2 months from now, or when they bottom out and they drop like $20 or whatever. So this is going to be really great for like the entire Magic community, the entire Commander community, not just Lord of the Rings fans, but obviously if you're a Lord of the Rings fans, then boom, you have all these sweet new artworks to get really excited about. So that's it for all the new cards from today. We're going to continue getting previews every single day, and I'm going to continue doing preview videos covering the cards that make it for Commander. If you want to see the main set cards being previewed, that's Seth's job over on the main YouTube channel, so check it out over there. But come back here if you ever want to see the Commander exclusive cards that are going to be previewed in Lord of the Rings. So that's it for now. Like and subscribe if you want to keep track of these videos as they come out. And until next time, friends, see ya!